Parrying in Dark Souls is a high-risk, high-reward move that can be used to shift the momentum of a battle. It takes a great deal of practice to perfect, but it is a satisfying feeling to land a successful parry and leave your opponent kneeling before you, as they prepare themselves for the incoming slap in the face.
I'm about to end this man's whole career.
Okay, I will not pretend that I was a master of parrying when I played Dark Souls Trilogy. In fact, I was quite the opposite.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer?
I preferred to play it safe and exploit one or two enemy attack patterns that I could bait out. Parrying was not something I cared about. However, when I first played Bloodborne on the PlayStation 4, everything changed. Bloodborne is a game created of the parrying, by the parrying, and for the parrying. It quickly became one of my favorite games, and it was largely due to the fast-paced combat that revolved around parrying. However, Bloodborne's parrying is not exactly the same as the parrying in the Dark Souls trilogy. Furthermore, when Sekiro Shadows Die Twice came out, it was also a very parry-dependent game, to the point where if you refused to learn how to parry, you would not be able to progress that far. The game basically forced you to learn how to parry and get good, but even then, Sekiro's parrying is also different from that of Dark Souls and Bloodborne. So how are they different from each other, and how are they used in their own respective games? Well, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Oxo, and I'm here to answer those questions for you. Today we're going to talk about the art of parrying in different Souls games and how they differ. Parrying in Dark Souls is essentially a matter of waiting for the right attack to come, like a hyena, and then perfectly timing the parry button to leave the enemy vulnerable for a split second, allowing you to follow up with a critical riposte. Parrying is a defensive move that can be performed with a shield, parrying dagger, or even bare hands. It is a very difficult technique to master as the parry window in Dark Souls series is very narrow. Those who wish to use parrying frequently must practice extensively to perfect their skills. I personally call this passive parrying because you're passively waiting for the right attack to come. It's very risky, but the reward is very lucrative. You get a free slap in the face, and the momentum of the battle will shift tremendously when you successfully parry and riposte an enemy, but if you fail, well, now you get a free slap in the face. It's the most basic type of parries you can find in several action RPGs, such as in God of War. Here you get to see that I successfully parried an attack from an enemy, and now get to bash it in the face with a shield. It is indeed a delightful feeling every time. In conclusion, parrying in Dark Souls is a high-risk, high-reward passive defensive skill that can be used to significantly shift the momentum of a battle. It requires precise timing and positioning, and failure to execute it correctly can result in a devastating counterattack from the enemy. However, when executed correctly, parrying can be a powerful tool for dispatching enemies quickly and efficiently. In my opinion, parrying in Bloodborne is more aggressive than in other Souls games. It is typically done by shooting the enemy with a gun while they're in the middle of an attack animation. I personally call this active parrying. The parry window is generally much larger than in any of Dark Souls games, as the idea is closer to attacking the enemy in the midst of their attacking motions, not as they are about to hit you. Furthermore, since you're also attacking the enemy, enemies with low poise will often flinch and stop attacking even if you miss the parry window. This means that if you know what you're doing, you can basically look for parries without any drawbacks. This low-risk, high-reward active parrying allows players to aggressively seek out parries. There are also several carol runes that can provide you with further advantages if you are playing a heavy parry-oriented playstyle. Carol runes, for those who are unfamiliar, are Bloodborne's equivalent of rings from Dark Souls. I personally like to equip this HP recovery rune at all times. This type of active parrying can also be seen in other Souls-like games such as Nioh 2. There are several types of parries with several different weapons in Nioh 2, such as the classic passive parry that you can perform against general attacks. However, for the sake of argument, let's look at one specific yokai parry that you can perform called a burst counter, specifically from a brute type yokai build. I know, if you've never played the Nioh series before, you'd be confused as a chameleon stuck inside a Skittles bag with all that buzzwords right now. So, to put it simply, when these demon-looking things in the game glow red with a warning sound to perform an unblockable attack, you can perform this active parrying style of burst counter to counter their attack and deal a significant amount of damage. Nioh 2 is also a very aggressive game that keeps pushing players to play at a higher tempo, just like Bloodborne. I think this type of parrying system works wonderfully in this kind of fast-paced archetype. It is indeed super fun to cleanly execute a parry like a badass and perform a visceral attack. In conclusion, parrying in Bloodborne is a low-risk, high-reward active offensive skill that can be used to push the tempo of battle. It is a versatile technique that can be used against a variety of enemies, and it can be a powerful tool for both offense and defense. When used correctly, parrying can be a game changer, and it can help players to overcome even the most challenging enemies. Parrying in Sekiro is very different. The idea and the goal of parrying is vastly different. Parrying in Sekiro is performed when you successfully manage to press the guard button right before the enemy hits you. Well, this rather sounds like a passive parrying in Dark Souls. What's the difference, one might ask? Well, parrying in Sekiro works in a similar way, yes, but it doesn't immediately lead you to a free critical riposte you can perform on the enemy like you'd be able to do in Dark Souls. The idea is closer to that of perfect deflect. Let me explain to you a little bit of Sekiro's combat system so you can understand it a little better. Sekiro's combat design is heavily centered around the posture meter system, and everything you do within combat should be related back to that posture meter. If your posture meter goes overboard, it will leave you vulnerable for a second, and becoming vulnerable for any amount of time might lead you straight to death in any Souls games. On the other hand, if you break the enemy's posture meter, you'll be able to perform a death blow, bypassing the need to deplete their HP entirely. Firmly pressing on your guard button only turns into a guard where you'll take a great amount of posture damage with no other significant advantages, while timing your parrying will only harm your posture meter slightly while greatly damaging the enemy's posture and also give you a slight time advantage for you to perform a riposte, a normal attack, until your enemy parries. And since now your enemy has the advantage, you have to go into defensive mode and you repeat this. The parry window in Sekiro is very generous as it is only designed to provide a small advantage to the player. Even if the timing is slightly off, the player will likely be able to block the attack, resulting in a low risk, low reward parry. An extremely low risk, I would add. So in conclusion, parrying in Sekiro basically serves as the base defensive skill to damage your enemy's posture while also bringing your offensive turn back. A little different from the high risk, high return Dark Souls parrying, right? We've looked through 3 different types of parrying that are found in Souls games. In a grand scheme of things, they're similar in a way that they're all used to bring you more advantages during combat and bring the enemy closer to death, but quite different if you break them down one by one. I've personally given them names such as the passive parrying in Dark Souls series, active parrying in Bloodborne, and perfect deflection in Sekiro. I personally fell in love with the active parrying in Bloodborne, hence why I still love Bloodborne so much to this day, even with that god-awful 30 frames per second. What kind of parrying do you guys love and why? Please share your opinions in the comments section freely, leave a like and subscribe to my channel if you've enjoyed the video, and as always, I'll see you all very soon.